everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Debra Pearlman. This is Entrepreneurial OOMPH, where we invite entrepreneurs and business professionals to share stories about their successes, their challenges, the ways that they've had to pivot and adjust and shift in changing markets, in changing relationships, in changing just anything that happens, because we know that saying life happens, shift happens. So I'm really happy that you guys are joining us, and I'm really happy to introduce our guest. I know John Klassen for many years. We go back, another BNI friendship that started back in the day. And since then, I know John has been extremely successful. He's pivoted, he's reinvented, and he shifts with his eye on the gold of he is, and he's never heard me say this before, so this is going to be a first for Mr. Klassen. He stands out to me as an individual who is extremely grounded and focused and purposeful. And when he puts his mind to something, he is going to see it forward. He's a visionary, and he sees the steps that have to be taken to get there, and he gets everyone excited and collaborative, and we are all moved and we meet the goals. And that was my experience of this gentleman way back in the BNI days. And I am so, again, happy and pleased to and honored for him taking his day and time to be with us, Mr. John Klassen. So, John, if you would introduce yourself as you want to be known to the masses, that would be phenomenal.
I'm the CFO of LHV Precast, and I appreciate your kind words. It's like, I don't think anything that I do is that terribly exciting. I'm just, how do I describe it? I'm an implementer. When I'm typically in every position I've been handed. When I was at banking, I was given the worst portfolio or the worst territory, and then just figured out how to make do with it. And that taught me how to do a lot of things. When I spent time in the service, it was the same thing. I was the young guy. So yeah, this is the platoon that we're having problems with. Good luck. Typically without a lot of direction. I came here because I thought this would be a great job to retire to. And at LHV Precast, change is a certainty. Within a year and a half of working here, my boss found out that he had lung cancer. Yeah. And then it became a job not only of making sure that my friend's family was taken care of, but that also the business was taken care of and handed off to a third generation, which we've successfully done. Now it's a matter of making sure that, they can all still ride the bull, so to speak. So it's, if anything else, it's just, I'm a doer. And my belief is that there's no problem that can't be solved without overworking it.
Okay. I love the mantra and the philosophy and the care, and it could not have been easy to hear that news. And again, I'm going to go back to what I said in the intro. You see something and you are very quickly able to put the pieces together and see the alignment that needs to have taken place, mm-hmm. and where the end goal is and how to get everybody on board. And I think from what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of remember you putting together a team of people that were supporting the effort at the time.
Here, yes, it was a matter of, for this to happen. Yeah, I always say, Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. So if you know where you are supposed to go and what the goal is, the steps align themselves. And it becomes a very narrow but very focused road. You have to engage all of the players. In this case, it was Jim, who did pass away. It was his wife, his sons, his partner Bob, the CPA, the attorney, the life insurance team, the financial planner, and just having monthly meetings to discuss what was next, which is difficult to do for someone who's literally dying as you're talking to him. But, to that point, his stock was purchased from his wife. So there was no interruption of the company. We also involved the bank, explained to the bank what was going on. This is a company that lives off of debt. It's an industry that's very expensive to run, and your bank becomes your partner. So it was having all of the stakeholders at the same table and not asking them what they wanted to do, telling them this is what we're going to do. And unless you see that there's a major problem with the plan, get in line with it. If not, point it out, and then let's incorporate what you need into the plan. And each person that was involved was at every phone call, every in-person meeting, every discussion, and we had measurables and deliverables that they each had to provide, which they did. I mean, we were able to transition $6 million in credit relationships over from a 2-partner operation to a 1-partner operation, and then start to retire debt, take care of shareholder issues and all that, which we're still doing. It will probably happen for another 2 years.
It's amazing. So a lot of big boulders and moving parts. And I'm sorry for the loss of your friend. You and yeah, so you start with the end in mind, right? That's what you said. And you think about that. And this is for anybody, at any stage of life. It's very hard to imagine that for ourselves. So for somebody to be sitting there and then watching things have to be parceled and moved and shifted, it must have been an unbelievably strong man, your friend, to be able to sit through that and have that and be that aware, because that also takes a lot of self-awareness and the ability to look inward and to see what has to happen and who has to be taken care of ahead of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I talk to friends who are in the insurance industry, that's a big one for them too, because who wants to talk about, death benefits and lawyers who have to do the wills and the trusts and living wills? Those are all things that are so difficult to have conversations about, and yet it's part of life. And so, it's reality.
If you don't have that conversation proactively, someone will have the conversation for you, but those results might not be aligned with what your wishes are, which is how we really got Jim on board, because he thought it was not going to be that big of a deal. And I explained to him, this is what I've done with my life. I was like, my children know exactly what needs to happen when I pass. There's instructions. Here's how you call for this. And I test that yearly, because I've had to do that. I've had many clients pass away. And it was just like, wow, this is always a mess. It's like, I'm not leaving this mess for my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you for that. So, okay. So let's pivot, if that's okay. I also know of you as you served in the military. You served our country, and I know that that's very important to you. So can you tell us, is there anything that particular that you'd like to share about that experience and what you learned from it?
Between military college and the Army, that's probably been, the 2 biggest influences on how I run a daily operation. As my wife will tell you, John doesn't go to the bathroom without a plan. It just has to happen.
I like your wife.
And she's very similar in her approach to business, but as I call it, when I'm on the field of play and I'm in the office at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm in the office at 6:30 at night. So for me, I call it working a half a day, but there's a plan for every minute of the day. In here, there's no feelings. I won't insult somebody, but if they're doing something wrong, I say, hey, that's not the way we do it here. You need to change the way you're doing it. And if that doesn't change, then change has to be made. Sometimes you're doing people a favor when you let them go.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of how I've governed the whole thing. I put a lot of trust in our subordinates. We have a crew of white hats here that run the 2 fabrication shops, the yard, and the manufacturing areas. And I've seen other people fail at it here, where they go right down to the lowest level employee to get something done. I was like, no, that person works for Gerardo. You talk to Gerardo. Gerardo makes it happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's on Gerardo.
So you have systems and processes in place and everything is in alignment. So is there an organizational chart that everyone knows?
Yes.
And is that mostly because of your military background?
There was an organizational chart, an unwritten one in place here. I put it in writing and got everybody to agree to it. We have 70 employees now. So, for me to worry about somebody, signing up for their benefits, I was like, no, that person works for Debra. Joe needs benefits. He needs to either sign this by the end of the month or sign up online, or he can wait till next June. I was like, it's on you. That's why I hired you. I appreciate you. I know you'll get it done. You have 30 days.
I love the way that you delegate. I hope everybody is hearing that. So whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're a high level, C-level executive, I think that is a huge takeaway. And I think that some people, employers, and anybody in an executive high level management position, if you're not holding people accountable and delegating responsibility, I think you're doing the whole organization a huge disservice. So that's kudos for you for holding that line. Good for you.
It's everybody's a customer. You have to think of the what we did some training at one of the banks I was with. I forgot what her name was, Rachel something, but she says think about the product of the product. So I know if I tell you something, you need to know why I need the information. So if I need the information by the 30th, I need to express to you that I need to have it by you from the 15th. That way I can review it to make sure you understood it, but that way I can meet my deadline. Too many people say, it's due on the 30th, and they give it to a subordinate or somebody that's in charge of that division. Yeah, you get till the 30th, and they show up on the 30th at 5 o'clock, and the ship has sailed.
That's interesting. So that's so you mean that people can't read each other's minds? Like you actually have to
Yeah,
communicate what's in your head, right?
yeah, exactly.
Verbalize it. Isn't that amazing? And so for so many people, they don't realize. And I hear a lot from clients at all different levels. Well, I told them that this is what I wanted. And I said, well, what exactly did you say? Like what actually came out of your mouth? And then we talk about it, and it's like, oh, I guess I didn't really communicate that very clearly, did I? No, it's a
Yeah.
good awareness.
Simple tasks are communicated verbally. Complex tasks have to be accompanied with something in writing. Yeah, Deborah, I have these 15 things I need for you to do. Well, here's the list of the 15. And people need to know the why. Anybody who says that they don't need to know the why does not respect their people. I need this because this is why this is important to all of us.
Mhm.
And then if you have it in writing, and then here's we have 30 days to get this done. At 5 days, I want to just see how we're doing. At 10 days, and then if you're going well, I don't need to see it until the due date. If not, we can meet every week. And I call them standing meetings. I'll go meet them in the yard. Hey, where are you with this? And that gives them, especially if it's outside the office, the opportunity to ask questions and not be in an area of, if they come into my office, they're intimidated because this is my turf. If I'm in their turf, then they're like, oh yeah, let me ask you this, it's this, and I don't care if they tell me it's a stupid idea. I'm like, well, I agree it's a stupid idea, but the federal government has decided that they want it, so we're going to give it to them.
So, right. So you have to do it. So I just want to go back for a second and make it very clear. So delegating, I just want to make sure this is magnified.
Mhm.
Delegating does not mean releasing total management. You still have to inspect what you expect. You still have to manage what your expectations are and make sure that the person who you gave that instruction to is actually following what needs to get taken care of, correct?
Yeah. And if you don't think they're getting it, ask them to repeat it back to you.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I just gave you 15 things. Explain to me what your understanding of this is.
Yeah.
And then you shut up at that point until they give you an answer. Now, if you're there for the rest of the day, then you've lost a day, but they have to answer you.
Mm-hmm.
Because once they do that, they own it.
Yeah. They have to own it. That's good. Tell them their name's going to go on it, right?
Yep.
They'll act a little differently. That's good. That's good. So, it's so interesting. So you are a very high level thinker. You're very strategic. Your SOPs, and for those people listening who don't know what an SOP is, standard operating procedures. It's how things get done. It's the checklist. Sometimes I refer to it to some clients as you're creating a recipe, and every single ingredient has to be in there in the right order so that you get the same outcome every time. So duplicatable, right? Is that a
Mm-hmm.
word? I don't know if duplicatable is a word, but that's what I use. So, and then it can become scalable. So for you, by the way, just so everybody knows, that is a real old phone ringing in the background, right? It's a desk line. It's not a cell phone. That is awesome. Most of the people listening might not have even ever been around when we still had the phones that were hanging on the walls. So I just wanted to point that out. So anyway, so when you're talking about scalability and making things duplicable, duplicable,
Yeah, that's that.
I
Forget
don't know,
that word.
duplicatable, whatever the word
There
is.
you go.
I'm going to have to look it up in Wikipedia and see if I created it or not. But so whatever that is, there's do you guys have like a manual that you give to when you're onboarding a new employee? Do they get that all of that information?
Yes, and we update it. We didn't really have a manual prior to me getting here. There was kind of just as like a word of mouth company, as I used to call it. It was very tribal. Um, and so what I've done is we've created an employee manual. We've outsourced that, so they get a link to the employee manual, but it governs what we do. You know, if somebody comes in and says, you know, so I'd like to take Thursday off. It's like, well, you need to give us a minimum of 2 weeks notice, and there's no exceptions. And when they come, it's like, well, what about John? It's like the guy said, well, the owner said, John typically doesn't take time off, but since his son is deployed, he will be off this November and next November, and the time is already booked. So yeah, if you want to look for somebody that's leading from the front, you know, do what he does, and you won't have a problem. And it gets, I get phone calls from distraught spouses like, well, you know, we wanted to get away for a quick weekend. I'm like, well, we manufacture concrete. This is not something he can do remotely.
Yeah. Well, those are those tough decisions where you're not going to be the most popular person on the street that day, right?
I didn't come here to be loved. I get loved at
Oh, I
home.
love that. I love that. I think that that is something that a lot of business owners and team leaders, I think that they want to be liked so much that they don't hold the line. And then the entire organization ends up suffering for it. So you can't please everybody. And if you're going to do what's good for the greater good, you're not going to be the most popular person. And what you just said, you nailed it. So can you say that again? Say it again.
I did not come here to be loved. I came here to be effective.
Yeah. To be effective and to make change. And making change is not easy.
No.
No. So, and it's so, and so I'm going to use an analogy. You're on a boat and you're the captain of the ship, and everyone needs to be rowing at the same time in the same direction. And if anyone is not rowing or is rowing off, it's either because they can't and they have to learn, or it's they won't and they need to be let go. And typically, like what you said before, you alluded to it, people fire themselves.
Hmm.
You either get on board, or obviously this is not a right fit for either of us. Me keeping you here is enabling you and it's causing dysfunction on the team. And it'll be healthier for all of us if you leave, right? And they
And
have, oh,
it it's little things that you know that keep that from happening. Just little, it's little corrections. It's when you stop making the little corrections that all of a sudden you're like where the heck are we? Why are we over here? We're supposed to be here. Well, it's because you didn't correct the guys on the outside who were rowing too fast and the guys on the inside that were rowing too easy. You know.
yeah, it's and I think that there's oh my gosh, we could talk about so much of this. There's something called the Peter Principle, and I was talking to a client not that long ago about this. Are you familiar with the Peter Principle?
Yep.
So I experienced it from the other side, like watching somebody be promoted into a position of incompetence.
Hmm.
So just for those of you who don't know what the Peter Principle is, it's basically promoting somebody to the level of incompetence. Typically, it happens on sales teams. This is where I've seen it the most. Or I guess, well, any management teams. So when you take somebody who's a sales rep and on a team of salespeople and they shine because they have the highest sales, they have the best reviews, they have great client connections, and they have build rapport, advantages, and they're doing great. They're shining. Upper management decides, well, we're going to make them a sales manager because they're doing so good. So they put them in the sales manager seat. And the biggest mistake they make is they do not give the person the skills and the training because it's a different mindset. It's a different skill set. Now you're asking them to manage and hold accountable their former peers. And you're not giving them the tools to deal with what's going to happen is sometimes people will go with it and the peers will respect the decision. And sometimes there's a couple people that are outliers and they're going to cause problems or they'll have static and challenges and they won't want to report to that person. right?
Yep.
So that's the Peter principle. And I forget the guy's name the philosopher who created, you could Google search it, who, who created the theory of the Peter principle. But I think when you're on the higher level and you see what has to happen and you're playing chess, you're moving those moving parts all the time. What do you do when you realize that you've made an error in judgment on somebody's character or ability? How do you handle it?
We've had handled it a couple of times this year. We've had salespeople that looked like they were going to be dynamite, um, and we just kept looking at the production. And I track everything. At the end of September, we start planning for our bonuses. By then, I know who's written which quotes have been converted. We know for our model that if you're converting more than 28% of your quotes, you're pricing things too low. So we're giving it away. If you're less than 20%, you're pricing things too high, or you don't know what you're doing. So we look at it, we do accumulation at the end of the year, but we will quote probably 1,500 jobs a year with 5 people. So you look very quickly at the end of month one, what's the pull through? Well, Debra has converted 30%. Okay, let's see what she's converted. Okay, she's done 10 quotes, landed 3. Bob gave her 2. That's okay. She's just starting out. Okay, keep her going. The guy that's done 50 quotes and doesn't get any of them. Okay, let's fix this now.
Yeah.
Is this really for you? Are you following up? Well, I don't really like to talk to people. How are you in sales? You don't want to talk to people. And then I
It
look around.
happens.
I look around at our sales manager. Like, well, why did you hire this guy? And sadly for them, I'll say that right in front of them. But at that point, if it's come to the CFO's attention, that means something's not getting done somewhere. But it's all about the math with salespeople. 10 calls equals 3 appointments equals 1 sale. It's
Yep.
in every industry. So if you only have 3 appointments and you have no sales, well, you're 7 appointments away from getting a sale. So go make 7 more appointments. Go follow up on 7 more deals. And I also tell the salespeople, if you've been in a long slump and you've gotten your first sale, okay, boom, what does that feel like? Like, I feel great. Fine, call your last 5 no's right now. And I was like, you'll convert 2 of 5 because they won't be able to resist your energy. And they come back like, that worked. Like, yes.
No. So you just said so much. I'm like not sure where to start. So it's like, there's so much to unpack in that. So, okay. I think the biggest, well, I mean, there was a lot. So first of all, you track the numbers, you track the conversions, there's
Mm-hmm.
expectations. So they have goals, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and the manager is held accountable for making sure that the sales rep is sticking to what they need to be sticking to, the activity
Mm-hmm.
to produce the results that they're looking to achieve, right?
Yep.
So then you said, and this is where I kind of want to like stay for a minute. You said something about they don't want to, oh my God, now it just went out of my head. This is what happens when you turn 61 years old and you're live on on a recording. You said something else about them with the selling. Oh my God, what else did you say?
Um,
Go ahead. They don't want to make phone calls. They don't want to call
yeah.
people.
If they don't want to call people, you're like, why don't you want to call people? What are you not confident about? Because when
There you
people
go.
don't want to communicate with, that means they're afraid of something.
Yeah.
They're afraid of their own incompetence. They're afraid to be found out. And you have to sit with them and make the calls. And by sitting with, they pick up the phone and you're on the other end as the manager going, okay, you're saying all the right things. Here's the problem. The person you're talking to is an idiot. So, we found that out. I was like, so there's nothing you can do with it. Or you've landed to the person who loves to talk to you, but is not the authority to make the buying decision.
I love that.
So,
So yeah, and it's amazing because I still hear it to this day. I don't want to call people. I don't want to be pushy. I don't like, really?
yeah.
Calling somebody and asking for, and so what we do is we turn it so that it feels more in alignment with what they feel is comfortable for them.
Mm-hmm.
And we turn it that you're calling somebody to make them an offering for something that they know they need, and you just have to just ask for the appointment and just you can't make somebody meet with you, but at least ask, at least give them
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
When I
even
was
in your business.
yeah, when I was in banking sales, I had 10 appointments a week because I knew the 10-3-1 rule. If I got to Friday and I only had 7 appointments, I worked Saturday. That was my own self punishment. I didn't like working Saturdays. So I had my 10 in by Wednesday.
I love
And then
that.
after that, it was gravy because I knew with those numbers, I would make my 12-month goal in 11 months. So then way I would have not necessarily a month off, but a month for, as I would call it, bleed through. First, it didn't close in time. Okay, well, it didn't close by the 30th of November. It's an annual goal. I still got 20 days in December to make it happen.
Yep.
And that's what salespeople don't do. They look at an annual goal and they divide it by 12. It's like, no, you take an annual goal and you divide it by 10 and a half. I was like, so then you're the hero every month.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. So you're a CFO and with the mindset of a sales manager. So, it's so interesting. So a few weeks ago, I did a training for a group of real estate agents, not located in New York or in South Carolina, completely different state. And we did it virtually via Zoom. And I'm on a call with the group, and I asked them what their conversions are, what their conversion rates are for every 10 appointments, for every 10 phone calls, how many appointments, for every 10 appointments, how many agreements do you get signed, and like walk them through that. Do you know, not one of them? And it makes me wonder, how effective is that team leader? How effective and how impactful is this training program that they say they're doing if none of the team members even know what their numbers are?
Yeah, that's not good.
No. And anybody that's listening, if you guys have a sales team and you're salespeople, and I don't care if you're a real estate agent, if you're selling Mary Kay, if you're selling Tupperware, if you're working for a bank in the front line and you're doing teller sales or you're doing mortgage loans, whatever it is, if your team members and your employees don't know what their goals are and why and their why, you're doing everyone a huge disservice. Your employees, your team members, yourself, your organization.
And you're frustrating your salespeople because salespeople are, by their nature, should be competitive. It's and you're actually giving them control of their own income, which is something that
Yep.
a lot of salespeople understand. So if in the beginning you explain, look, this is how this works. I remember when I started off in banking sales, they had me do a Project 500. I had a book of business owners, COIs, and potential customers. Back then you had fax number. It wasn't really, email wasn't even that prevalent yet. But you went through, you had the list of 500. It was in a binder. And what I did from that point on, every time I had a new position or I would get a business card, I had a business card binder. So if the computer went down, I was like, all right, well, the computer's down. I can't do this. I can't do that. I opened the book. Last time I was on this, I finished the A. So we're gonna start with the B's. And just want to see how you're doing. It's been 6 months since we talked. My computer's down, so you're going to occupy part of my and something. They stay on the phone when you say something funny like that. They're like, "You got to be kidding me!" Because I hope your phone gets fixed soon. I got a busy day. Well, I'll come over and help you. Well, come
Well, you
on over.
guys have a landline now, so you don't have to worry about it. So you'll always have phone service.
Oh, we have in a concrete plant. There's no cell reception because of all the concrete and
Oh,
steel.
that's so funny. Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. If you try to text me here, I'll get the text tonight when I get home.
Yeah. So I'm going to date definitely myself. I don't know about you, but do you remember Rolodexes back in the day?
Yep.
Right? Business card binders, Rolodex. The younger people are going, what are they talking about?
Yeah, we
And
had that
that's a landline. So
when I was at M&T Bank. My sales manager came in and goes like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well," I was like, "You're busy. I just started here, so I need to let." And the book was this thick, so I was like, "I need to let these 750 people know where I am, so they can get a hold of me." Well, so what are you going to do? I was like, "Well, the phone works. I'm going to pick up the phone when IT gets here. I'll just move into the conference room and do that phone, and in a day, I can probably burn through 300 phone calls." How are you going to do 300? Like half of them are going to be messages.
yeah, you just leave the voicemail. It's really funny. So I just want to go back for a second. So John said it's about this thick, but those of you who are listening, I just want you to know his hands were spread about 7 inches. So he was talking about 7-inch binder filled with business cards and contact information that he's following up on. Oh my gosh. That's back in there was a movie where somebody was given a telephone book and just said, go make calls. I don't remember which
Oh
movie.
yeah. Oh, I know. It was one of the Wall Street movies.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Wolves of Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
Wolves of Wall Street, I
Thing
think.
is, open up. Yeah, sitting in a boiler room making phone calls.
Yeah, and you know what? That's how sales were made back then, and it hasn't changed too much. The technology and the tools have actually gotten better and they're enhanced. And what's really interesting is even though the tools have gotten better and they've enhanced things technologically, human nature still gets in the way. It's amazing,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. We're our own worst enemies.
It's like,
Yeah. It's
pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone and make a phone call, please.
Yep.
I'm begging you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. I mean, and it's converting the calls that come in. It's having everybody on the. Yeah. Everybody has to understand that if a lead calls in, whether you're the dispatcher or the production manager, the answer to the phone can't be what. Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Welcome to LHV. How may I help you? Boom. Oh, okay. Culvert Sales, you need to talk to Victor. Stone Strong Sales, you need to talk to Dan. And when I get it, I'll dig through a little bit further and qualify them. And my controller sits in the same office with me. She's now doing the same thing. She's like, well, they're just buying precast. It's like, well, that precast purchase pays your salary. So instead of figuring out who they go to, we know who specializes in whatever. Just ask them a few questions. Are you looking for a wall or a bridge? Bridge deck slabs or culverts, catch basins? Oh, catch basins. Luis, great. And then just play. Luis is going to take care of you. May I put you on a brief hold while I? And the contractor world that we serve is not used to that level of politeness. They're just like,
That's
oh,
interesting.
yeah, they're used to somebody being abrupt on the phone. I'm like, no, we're not abrupt here. I handle collections and I use this same tone of voice in collections because most collection calls they're beating up the poor person who doesn't get to sign the check. Well, why am I beating her up or why am I beating him up?
Oh my gosh. Really interesting. So all of that, no matter where you are in your life, you have always held the same um, firm anchor, right? And you've always been grounded, and that's your philosophy and those are your beliefs. Has there ever been a time when it was shaken, where you thought that you made a big mistake?
Um, yeah, I went to one bank where I lasted about a year and I did the classic thing. I was schmoozed into it and went for the money, and the money was substantial. And decent people, but the overall culture for me was toxic.
Mhm.
And people weren't trusted. All of a sudden, boom. So your first month, I was like, in my first month there, I didn't have a computer yet. I was like, I've been making all the phone calls, but you don't see it on your system because I don't have the vehicle to put it in. Well, why don't you have a computer? I was like, well, call IT because I've called them and they said, So we went through the whole thing, and it got to the point where my wife came home one day. She's like, look, you're out of here at 7 o'clock in the morning. You're finishing your last sales call at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. You have an hour ride home from there. She's like, you're going to drop dead from this job. So you're quitting. I was like, and you'll find something else. So I was like, okay. So
Good for her.
yeah. So I went in and I resigned on the day that Hurricane Sandy was making landfall. The attitude completely. So I figured I was going to have 2 weeks to find something new, which I did find in that time period. We need you to stay because most of our lenders are not available or they're in areas that have been hit by the storm. We can't reach them. So in the last 7 days I was there, I had more lending authority than I ever had. And I was like, all you had to do is trust me in the first place. Yeah, that's just not how we operate, though. I was like, but when you need something, you'll change your operating system. I was like, so you're not being. It's like, well, you're on the candidate for rehire list if you ever want to come back. I was like, I truly wish you the best of luck,
Yeah,
but
because
I'm
they're
out.
not going to change.
No,
So that's so interesting. So they shifted out of necessity, and then instead of taking stock of it and saying this actually works better for us,
right,
they just snapped back. It was that rubber band effect. Well,
yep.
everything's back to normal now. We're going to micromanage and not delegate and not really use our
We
to the
our
best of our
our
ability.
sales manager was in White Plains at the time, and we're in Poughkeepsie, and I had done exactly what I was supposed to do, and in the meeting, I'm just getting boom. Why didn't you do this? You never called me on this. Blah 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 blah. So we need to sit down and talk today. I folded up my computer. Everybody was like, "Where are you going?" They want to see me now. I was like, "I'm on my way." So I got in a car, drove down, and logged into the call from the car, and just kept it on mute. And like, well, where's John? I want to talk to him. You need to understand something. John takes what you say very seriously. He's on his way to your office right now. Well, I don't have time to see him today.
Oh, yes, you do.
The admin said, you will find the time because he'll sit outside your door until you do. And I got down there and we had a long drawn out conversation. I was like, don't ever talk to me like that again.
Good for you.
I was like, because it's, here's what I've done here. You want to end of the day report at 4:00. I still got 2 hours to go. So sure enough, we finished up. Never raised her voice to me again on the phone. And everybody was like, how did you become, what the heck happened in that office? Like, that's a private conversation between myself and the boss.
Yep.
Which she also respected. That she laid off at that point, but I was just like, yeah, this is just not going to work.
Yeah. I think that, and it's so interesting because you guys are dealing, so CFOs, right? Chief financial officers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know because I live with one, so I'm speaking from my personal experience here. It's constant barrage of questions, constant barrage of asking for reports. You have numbers, you have things you have to fill out, you have to have the P&Ls, you have to have things ready for the taxes, you have to have things ready for year end. You have reporting and I'm like, and that's just like the tip of it. Plus then you're also managing your team and delegating and checking up on their responsibilities. And then to have a superior talk down to you and micromanage you, no, no. I'm glad you stood up for yourself. Good for you. Good for you. I don't think they understand, and sometimes I think the boss thinks that they know everything, and they think that everybody else's jobs are just, it's easy to replace.
Right.
Right? What's the word? You're not. What's the word when you're? I guess replaceable is the word.
Everybody's replaceable.
Yeah.
It's where people forget is that if you set up, like you talked about earlier, like SOPs, I call them workflows. So you set up the workflows so when I'm not here, the team is able to continue on. That's what makes you invaluable to an organization. Yep. If you hoard everything in, those are the CFOs that fail. Because in addition to, the sales function that, that reports up to me, the full HR component is here. Payroll comes through this office. All of our insurances from health to general liability to workers' comp, managing the EMR, I always say that CFO should actually be a CR, Chief Risk Officer, because anything that has to do with risk comes through your office, because anything that has to do with risk has a financial positive or a financial negative that, might not be on the balance sheet, but it sure impacts the balance sheet.
Yeah. So the company that you're working for now, is it a private company or is it public?
Nope, privately held.
It's privately held. So, all right. So I know I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to see if I can do this in a way that maybe you can share with us the range of annual revenues without giving it away. Because if you're not public, that's private, proprietary, and I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable situation. But can you just tell us, is it over or under 20 million a year?
Under 20 million.
Okay. So under $20 million a year, 70 employees, you said you're up to, right?
Yep.
And how many years in business?
Company's been in business for 45 years.
Nice.
So
nice.
It's transitioning to a third generation right now.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And I'm sure you're helping with that transition as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a legacy, there's a succession and exit strategy.
Yep. It's interesting because it's with people who are great at concrete. They can build you anything, but to navigate that financial piece and the risk piece and how to put it together that's one of the great things I learned in my banking career is how to train. And I always specialized in, two brothers, a father and a son, whatever it was a family run business because you could do the most good there because they were at the most risk. I mean, most 80% don't make it to the second generation.
Yeah. So you're helping them with generational legacy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Or if you prepare a business properly to do the transition, if the next generation doesn't want it, it's available for sale. At that point, all the financials are together. The risk to a buyer is lower, which drives up, drives up the price.
Value. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so we have to wrap up. So I just one last question for
Mhm.
you. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have, or something that you really wanted to share with listeners and viewers that would be a great takeaway?
It's, you know, in this type of role or any type of a management role, whether you're just managing 3 tellers at a bank, it's you've got to have a plan, and the plan has to be known to your people, and it's got to be consistent. I mean, if you're managing 2 tellers, it could be at the end of the, hey, tomorrow, Deborah, you're opening, and Joe, you're closing. It could be, tomorrow we need to do the count on these 2 boxes, just so they have an expectation of what's coming in. The worst thing you can do to an employee is have them not know what they're doing the next day,
Yep.
because that inherently, people are inherently afraid. My controller and I, 5 o'clock comes, there's a 3-minute sit down. Tomorrow we're doing this, 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 and this. Remember, it's Tuesday, so we have to get this report in. And so today she wasn't in, so I knew that I had to do those reports, and that when she gets back on Thursday, she'll pick up the slack for me on something else. But that way, there's stuff doesn't fall through the cracks.
Continuity.
Yeah, and your unit looks intelligent when you do that.
That's good. Thank you so much for being a guest. I so appreciate you and your
No, I
time,
appreciate you having me.
wisdom, and this was great, and it was really very interesting. And I love talking higher level. So thank you for the opportunity to be on that strategic level with you.
No, it was my pleasure.
For the listeners, the podcast for John will be available very soon. We drop a new episode every Tuesday. So look for our YouTube channel. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podcaster. I don't know, there's like 12 different platforms that we're on right now. And any of those, all you have to do is just do a search for OOMPH with Debra Pearlman, and it will show up in your results. So thank you again, John. I so appreciate you.